And we are live, Jessica.
Yay! All three steps.
All three steps. Welcome, viewers. Tonight, I am going to be hanging out with a friend of mine. She is involved with Wingman for Dance. Many of you know her already because of her association and dedication to the organization. But we're going to get a little personal tonight and learn some more about this Jessica Michaels before Wingman. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Rhee. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Um, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but for our listeners or viewers actually who are new, tell us your position in Wingman for Dance and a synopsis of what Wingman for Dance is all about.
Hang on, my alarm just went off. Sorry. Well, I am one of the program directors at Wingman and the program director for Wingman for Dance at Dylan's Wings of Change. And Wingman is a program from Dylan's Wings of Change, which is a foundation that's dedicated to Dylan Hockley, who was one of the first grade victims in the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. And our focus is on inspiring empathy and courage and inclusion and connection everywhere. So we do that through team building activities, team bonding activities, trust building activities, and ideally led by the kids and by teens so that it develops into a youth leadership program.
As we say in Massachusetts, and you may say in Connecticut too. That's wicked awesome.
We don't, but I'm going to start.
So I'm thinking this is a time when our dance community is embracing your message, yes?
Yes, I've actually, we said earlier before we got on that it was a long day. I woke up to several Facebook messages asking, so how am I going to get Wingman going virtually? Because our teens, this is about the time right now that I think teens are falling off. I've gotten messages that have said even my best teens, the ones that are generally the leaders, are really struggling right now and not showing up for classes. And teachers and studio owners are needing to connect with their kids, and that's what we do. It took us a little while to get to the point where we could do it virtually, and now we are doing it virtually.
I know I want to go in a different direction, but now you have me interested in this. These teachers, are they realizing that it's the connection that's the most important thing right now, or are they believing they have to teach? And do you have any comments on that?
I don't know if teachers recognize how much just connecting with their kids right now is the most important thing. I don't know if they're completely getting it. What they're coming to me about is behavioral issues. Not recognizing, I think, that it's the connection that will help fuel that, fuel and improve that. So I think some do, but everybody is so worried. Everybody's so worried about losing their business and losing attendance and losing enrollment that I think that the more I throw at them, the more value I'm going to have. So what I'm hoping to do is change a little bit of that goal and make it that the more connection you create, the more loyalty you're going to have within your community and the stronger your community is going to be.
I agree. And to all the teachers and studio owners that are watching, this is about our community. This is about a team of people who are working together to survive in the spirit of dance. Yes. It isn't about dancing full out. I think what I hear most from people is that when they get done with class, the kids just want to hang out and talk to each other. And so how cool is that? Like, isn't it about time our kids just want to talk to each other instead of
They miss each other. I had a mom reach out to me and she said, I'm heartbroken for my daughter. She loves being able to do, she's enjoying the virtual classes. She loves that she's old enough now to have an Instagram account and she can, talk to her friends and she messages. She said, but really, she goes, I'm heartbroken for her being heartbroken for missing her friends.
That's what dance is all about. Might have been the part of it some were missing before this, but to me it's like loud and clear. It's flashing lights that it's about community.
Yes. I remember when I was a professional dancer, I remember thinking that when I had first started, I was like, oh, if I ever stop dancing, I'm going to miss being in the shows. I didn't really miss being in the shows as much as I missed all of the relationships.
And the audiences.
And the audiences, because you're building a relationship with them too.
Agree. So let's go back a little bit. I'd like to hear about Jessica Michaels, The Child. Were you an artist? I know you started dancing later in life. So tell me what that journey was like from childhood.
So as a kid, I was always a wacky performer type, and I did voices and had characters, and I did every single voice and character from The Wizard of Oz, my favorite record at the time, because that's how old I am. There was a side B.
The word is mature.
There was a side B. But I was an artist actually. At 8, I did take art lessons for a little while and love art too. But my mom was a single mom, so we couldn't afford dance classes. And even though I really, really wanted to go to dance classes, I had to wait until I was old enough to have a job and pay for them myself. So I didn't start dancing until I was 16. And I remember my very first teen beginner jazz class. And deciding then I was going to be a professional dancer, like knowing right then. That was it.
Really?
Yes, there was nothing else after that. My whole world completely changed. Even though it wasn't a pre-professional program like the one I would start at 18, I knew 16, boom, first class, first hour. That's it. I found it. That's what I was looking for my whole life.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me, I know we've talked a little bit about this. Growing up, your grandmother, was she an influence on you?
Yes, my grandma was like my favorite person, and I think I was her favorite little pet. And so she's actually the person that introduced me to musicals and the ballet, and that's why I fell in love with it at a young age. She and I would watch the Olympics and the figure skaters, and so I just loved performance. So my grandma and I were close because my mom was really a country girl. And I was a bit of a glamour girl. I wanted my nails done. I wanted my hair done. And my grandma would do all of that for me.
Describe country girl for me. Then I want to hear about grandma some more.
I was riding horses before I could walk. I know how to completely clean a horse's feet and groom a horse. I know how to shovel a lot of poop out of a barn stall. That's country.
That's the country.
Chickens, rabbits, at one point. So yeah.
And so you grew up with your grandmother being close by?
Yes, she was right across the street. So I would go sleep over at her house where she would lay me on the counter and do my hair, wash my hair in the sink and then put it in curlers. And yes, I was in my glory when I had a head full of curls.
Wow. So
opposite of my mom. Opposite.
But did she appreciate the not prissy? Did she appreciate who you were becoming?
My grandma did.
Excellent.
Yeah, my grandma loved it. My grandma was very proud of me.
So you danced at age 16 and then at 18 the spark was lit, right?
Yes, I actually kept I thought it was strange that every time I walked into a dance studio, they would put me into the advanced classes, even though I had no dance experience. And so I knew I had to be missing something. So I just kept searching and searching and searching for classes that were harder and that were more challenging. And they didn't just assume I should be thrown in the advanced classes. And so that's how I found Judy. So the other thing I really loved about her, Rhee, was I was dancing at a different dance studio, and she owned a dancewear shop. And I came in to buy shoes for my recital at the other school. And oh no, it had to be after. It was right after the recital. So I was buying shoes for summer camps or summer intensive or something. And she asked me, she goes, "Oh, were you in such and such recital?" And I said, "Yes, I was." I was all proud. And she goes, "You guys did a beautiful job." And I had never heard another teacher speak kindly about another studio. And so that was the first thing that impressed me about her. And so I wanted to find out what this woman was all about. And so I went and I took a free class, and that's how I got to know her. And
Let's
took
give
with her.
Judy some credit. What's her last name?
It's Judy Abatello, and she's at Monroe Dance Academy.
Still going on. And
yes, I was teaching this year there.
So how long did it take before you were feeling, I guess, like a dancer?
A while. As a matter of fact, I was, first of all, I knew I was going to be a dancer no matter what, even when I got to Judy's studio. And I would do things like I took ballet classes with the 8-year-olds, even though I was 18, just so that I could understand what was supposed to be happening in my body. Because even though I was in the intermediate and advanced ballet classes, I had no idea what my body was doing. I could mimic it, but I didn't know. So I took a lot of classes with little kids just so I could get strong, because I was serious. So I was working my butt off.
You were getting a foundation. You may not have understood that that's what you were seeking, but you got it that way.
Yep. And
not every 18-year-old would want to go through that process.
No, because I don't know that, well, everybody thinks that it's just about being in the higher classes. And for me, it wasn't. I knew I wanted to be a professional, so I knew I had to get a stronger foundation. But I had this thing with Judy. So I remember thinking, I was like, well, I'm not going to ask her whether she thinks I'm a good dancer or not, or whether I'm good enough to be a professional, because I figure if she says yes, I'm going to do everything I can to prove her right. And if she says no, I'm going to do everything to prove her wrong. So I'm not even going to ask.
So you hung on to the question and
I never asked her. And I just said, "Judy, will you please tell me when I'm ready to start auditioning?" I just left it at that. Just tell me when I'm ready to start auditioning. And so it was really funny, because obviously that's a huge moment for me, right? When like that would, so she's just one night after class casually going through her paperwork, and she didn't even look at me. She just said, "Jess, can you come over here for a second?" And I walked over, and "Yeah, I think you're ready to start auditioning." And she just kept fluffing her papers and all that. And I am out of my mind, ecstatic, because it was the release, the big, moment where I felt like I had graduated.
And so how long after that did you wait to go to that first audition?
I went very soon after that. I was working as a nanny, and I already knew that I was planning to go in that direction. So I'd let them know, hey, it's going to be, soon. I think I'm getting close. So I only went to 2 auditions. I got my second audition. So
what was that?
It was Norwegian Cruise Lines for Jean and Ryan.
Really?
Yes, that was my first job. And I was dance captain.
I knew many people who did Jean and Ryan's Cruise Lines.
It's a great entry-level job.
And what do you remember most about that? What did you learn from that journey?
I learned I only wanted to do it once.
Really?
That's what I learned.
How long did it last?
5 months. It was a 5-month contract.
And so then where'd you go?
After that, I came home, and I auditioned for, it was a dance company going in Tokyo. And it was funny. I was a scholarship student at STEPS, so I'd auditioned for scholarship at STEPS. which was huge. You know, that was a
Yeah.
big deal because they auditioned and I got it. And so my job after that was this dance company going to Tokyo. And it was funny because all of us, we had rehearsed in New York and then we went out to Tokyo, and they had a bunch of the videos from all the past dancers. And it was like the Steps Scholarship Review. We recognized every single person in the past year's videos.
Really?
Yeah, it was really neat. Historical significance for us.
Around what year was this your steps experience?
90 and 91.
Yeah, New York was booming classes. Not only
Uh,
steps, Broadway dance.
so my teacher was a big student of Chuck Kelly.
Really?
So my first classes were in at Broadway Dance Center, and I just thought it was like the most amazing thing in the world that we got to go take class with dancers from Cats at Chuck Kelly's class.
And this is the thing about Chuck Kelly, which we don't have anymore.
Mm,
He could teach an acro class. He could teach a tap class. He could teach a jazz class. He could teach any class.
yes.
My
Yes.
mother was of that mold.
Yes.
And so that made him a master because he could go anywhere in the country and teach just about anything.
100%. Yes. And that's what I learned from Judy. You know, I learned if you're going to own a studio, you better be able to teach everything because you're at a moment's notice, you're going to have to jump in and teach.
Yeah, you don't have to be an expert at it all. You have
Yeah.
to have knowledge and respect for it all.
And improvisation skills.
Yes.
Really good. Entertaining improvisational skills.
For those who understand that and are not intimidated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're steps, we're moving on. Where do we go next?
So this is that story.
Okay, go.
So I was very lucky. So in Tokyo, I was working with 5 different freelance modeling agencies. I was on TV in Japan, I did movies, and I was recruited by a top modeling agency there. And it was neat because they actually recognized me from a TV show that I did regularly. When I walked in the door, they were like, "Oh, she's from Tunnels." So that's how I got
Stop, back up for our listeners, our viewers. What television show was that? We
It was
seem
called
to have missed that.
Tunnels, and it was it was kind of like the Japanese Saturday Night Live. So I was often an extra or a dancer on this Tunnels show.
Cool. So
Yes,
you
it was
were
so fun.
famous in Japan, and they loved celebrities.
Well, so back then they said I looked like Diane Lane, and they loved Diane Lane. So they were like, "Oh," every time they said, "Oh, Diane Lane." So that's how they would pitch me. "Oh, she looks like Diane Lane." So I got a modeling contract to go back. So I came home for 2 months in between my 2 Tokyo contracts. I got to do the Aretha Franklin Everyday People video with Desmond Richardson.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a highlight. Big highlight. And the nicest guy ever, and he even gave me a ride home because we lived in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn. So, but this is that event that I was telling you about that. So I was sexually assaulted in New York City. And when I went to Tokyo for the modeling contract after that, I became very filled with debilitating anxiety. The issue was I believed it was my fault, as women do. And so when you believe it's your fault, on the heels of that is 3 statements. I'm so stupid. I can't trust myself to take care of myself, and I'm not safe. That's how the world felt to me after that experience. And so So I went to Tokyo, and it was just modeling. It wasn't dancing. So it wasn't even an emotionally expressive experience. It was very static and cardboard, and you were a mannequin at the mercy of other artists and photographers. And so it was definitely not something that I loved at all. But the thing that stood out to me recently as I was looking back at this particular experience was that I was afraid to go back to New York City after that. And that never happened. So I went back to New York City to my apartment, and I looked for any way to get out of the city. And so you're going to laugh. It's funny and not funny. I took a job in Atlantic City at Trump Castle.
I'm
Right?
not laughing. I'm not. There was a time when Atlantic City was a good place to work for dancers. So
Yes,
yes.
but completely derailed me out of New York. And I was out of New York for about 2 years. And then I tried to come back, but the anxiety was very overwhelming for me. And so that's what that came from. And I lived with that for quite a while.
Where'd you go when you were living with it? Did you move back to Connecticut to teach? Because I know you've taught for a couple people I know.
No, I moved to Florida because my grandma had moved there. So
Okay.
I moved down to be with my grandma.
How cool is that? So you spent a lot
Yes.
of time with her?
Yeah, I got to see her. I was there for about a year and a half, and so I got to spend a lot of time with her there, and that's what I needed, was to be with my grandma.
It as my grandma, who we call Granny, would say, it warms my heart. That those are her words. To hear you say that, she was from Arkansas, because I had a really special relationship with my grandmother too.
Yep.
And she was my cheerleader. And this is something I
Same.
remember about her was we would go to Arkansas, and she had a bad back, and whether it was Rennie and I or other grandkids, we all slept on the living room floor with her, because that's where she slept. She'd lay out her blankets, we'd watch TV, and all the kids were on the floor. She lived on the floor every day sleeping, but we all
Wow.
got to lay on the floor with her. And yeah, I get that that is can be that safe place.
And how much of it, like now, with everything that we're going through in our culture right now, how much now do you appreciate things about your grandma? Like, I'm starting to recognize all of the Depression era things that
Oh
my
yeah.
grandma did and why she did them, and that though decades had passed, how they were so ingrained in her because of the age she was when the Depression had happened and when the war had happened. She actually lost her first husband in the war. And so, she brought with her that memory of the Depression and that loss, and lived her life a certain way. And so now going through this, I definitely have a greater appreciation for what she went through at those times. And I definitely am much more a minimalist. I was a minimalist before this, but now I'm like, well, I can wear this set of clothes another couple days before I do the laundry. Well, this loaf of bread can last me 3 weeks. I won't have to go to the store for a while. I'm starting to feel my grandma.
It's the truth. This wasn't my grandmother, but I had an aunt on my father's side, uh, washed out sandwich bags. You'd go to her house on Saturday, and there'd be sandwich bags there. And you didn't use a tea bag one time. You had to
Yeah.
use a tea bag 2 or 3 times. And I didn't get it then, but I get it now. And yes, one thing, this is not an easy situation, but everybody will realize how little they really needed. Everybody's been telling us, selling us what they think
Yeah.
they can tell us we need to be happy people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, happy people is the ability to be with family, to be with the rest of the world in kinship of survival, and we're in this together, and that's the most we can hope for. I kind of feel like greed and all the things that were going on, or I felt around me, have to stop. It's like
I mean,
we're up sailing in the same boat, and your boat is no bigger than my boat.
right. I think some people, they still will not learn the lesson, but I have a feeling the dance industry. So this is my theory about dance and the dance industry. And this was my theory way before this. You know, when I first met Ian Hockley, who is the executive director of Dylan's Wings of Change. When I first met him and I told him about the dance industry, and I learned about Wingman, and I said, you know, dance teachers just have the heart for Wingman and teaching empathy. We already try to do it. We just don't have a curriculum. So I really think this is going to be a good fit, not because I think dancers were lacking it, but because I think dancers are the leaders. I think dancers are going to be the ones that bring it forward. And I think this, in this case too, I think dancers have to be so physically strong, mentally strong, emotionally strong to be able to convey those emotions through dance.
I call that part the passion.
All of that passion has to be controlled and riveted and directed and used efficiently and conveyed well so that the audience is with you on that journey. I think dancers are not the problem. I think they're going to be the solution to so many things. That's just my thought. My thoughts about that.
I have to say, I'm with you 100%. I couldn't find anything about that I could disagree with. It's dance for the dancer, especially teenagers and young dancers. It's about what they feel when they're out on the stage. That is what drives them right now.
Yeah.
And to make someone smile or feel better or do movement that calms someone's soul is who we are. I think now, without creating any controversy here, maybe we lost our way a little bit in the last decade or so, where we couldn't recognize the passion as much as the technical excellence. And maybe now is the time where the passion will be recognized. Not that technical excellence shouldn't be recognized.
Right. But, and this is an agreeing but. This is
okay,
not a but.
I'm okay with that.
This is an agreeing.
You don't even have to agree, and I'm okay with it.
So I like to teach dancers from the inside out. And from the inside out means we get in touch with what that energy is that wants to move that leg into a beautiful tendu. Because if we don't get in touch with that energy, then we're building a dancer from the outside in. And then dancers just become mimics. And there's a big difference between being a mimic and being a dancer. I would hear at some of the studios that I taught at, I've heard this actually quite a lot in the last 10 years, and I had never heard it before 10 years ago. They talk about the face for competition. They say, you know, give me more facials. And I had to stop a teacher when I heard that. I was like, what? What does that mean? Rather than, for me, what I do is I go into a story. And I say,
or what are you feeling?
Why are we doing? Why are you running over here? What's so big about running over here? Because right now it looks fake. And it doesn't matter how many facials you can put on it. Your body can tell me. Body language is everything.
Body language is dance.
Yeah, I mean, right? So I can feel you in the audience, whether you're being fake or not. And I don't care. I can tell whether you love dance in your face. It doesn't matter how high your leg is. Doesn't matter how many turns you can do. I see it in your eyes and in your face. So I am hoping that that quality of dance, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with technique, nothing. I believe 100%.
Look how hard we're trying to
Not offend.
yeah, but it's not, and it's definitely not, because I appreciate strong technical
Of
dancers and
course.
technique, what that
But
takes, but that's not all a
yes,
dancer is.
and the difference is you can be a less technically proficient dancer and get a standing ovation
Yes.
because you connect with the audience. I say great dancers are great actresses and actors because we have to be able to tell that story with our body.
And it's again, I can't ever get away from the word. It's the passion. The audience feels it. They know if it's real. Now, a set of judges are looking to see if that's turned out, but an audience
Yeah.
that doesn't know what that leg's supposed to look like
Yeah.
is just looking to feel what your passion
Do you
is.
know what's funny? Want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
My dance teacher, Judy, told me years later after I had already been a professional dancer and I came back to visit her, and she's like, yeah, she goes, when you first came to me, she goes, you were a mess. She goes, but we had to watch you. So I was like, okay. I couldn't tell whether it was a compliment, but it was that I was like, I was so grateful to be dancing. And that's the advantage I think I had over dancers. When I went to New York and auditioned, I was ecstatic because they had already been dancing 10 years. And I had only been at my good school 3 years. And I was like, move over then. Let me let me get in there because you go be bored over there because I'm just excited to be here. And so one of the things I think that we lose a bit when we lose that passion is the gratitude.
Hmm. Can't disagree. And waking up every day with a healthy body and being able to express, this is a quote I have, the emotions of life through the art of dance
Mm-hmm.
is a gift to be grateful for. If you have nothing else,
Yeah.
it's a gift.
Yeah. I have a story to tell you.
All right, you tell me that story, and then I'm going to take you back to Connecticut teaching and
Okay, then
leading
you
up.
go first because you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming back. We're in Connecticut. I know it's before Sandy Hook. You're teaching, correct?
So I went through a divorce
Okay.
and I didn't know where I wanted to go after I left. I had actually moved to Minnesota, to Minneapolis with my husband at the time. He was an engineer and he was completing a degree at the University of Minnesota. We divorced and I thought, okay, I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I just wanted, I, I literally said that I just want to like go somewhere where nothing, like I want to be quiet and where nothing happens. I'll go back to Newtown. And that was in 2011. And so I'm teaching at two dance studios. One in Newtown, so I went to Newtown High School, graduated from Newtown High School. That's where I was from. And then also Monroe. So I had also lived in Monroe for a period of time. And that was Judy's studio where I grew up. So I was teaching at both of those studios at the time.
Okay. You're teaching 2011. When was Sandy Hook?
2012.
So were you happily teaching and enjoying the journey?
Yes, and I really loved that so Jen, who owns Dance Etc.,
Let's tell them Jen's last name.
Jennifer Turry
Yes, she's one of my favorites out there.
Dance Etc. So Jen Turry and I both went to Judy's studio. We were students of Judy's.
Really?
How funny is this? Judy has a history, right? So we not only were Jen and I students at Judy's together, but we were roommates for a period of time in New York when we were both dancing professionally. So when I was moving back here to Connecticut, I called Jen and I was like, hey, do you got a job for a teacher? Because I'm moving back to town. So she gave me a job there, and then I called Judy, and so I was working at these 2 studios, and very happy. I was happy to be home, happy to just relax and get past the heartbreak of your whole life changing when you go through a divorce. Yeah, I was enjoying being home.
What was the day of Sandy Hook like?
So I was actually supposed to have a date that night. So I had a hair appointment that morning, not that morning, but that afternoon. And my hairdresser was a dance mom, one of the moms at Dance Etc. And she called me and she said, I don't think I'm going to be able to make your appointment this afternoon. There's been a shooting at the elementary school. Now, I grew up in Newtown, so my first thought was, somebody brought a BB gun to school. In fact, I will tell you, I was a little annoyed with her. I thought, somebody brought in BBs, and everybody's making a big deal, and this is nothing, and I have a date tonight. I have a date. And so I said to her, well, when all this is over, can we reschedule it for a little later? Because I've got a date. I got my roots showing. So can we do something? And it didn't for a second, for a second on the phone with her, think it could be anything real. So she starts crying and she says, turn on the TV. And I was like, okay, all right. I said, I'll call you later. So I turn on the TV, and I should say before I go on too far that this is a story of that day and a little bit. This is my story. And so anybody that could possibly be triggered or activated by me talking about it, just so that they know ahead of time, because they can choose to turn it off, because a lot of people can't handle talking about this or hearing about it. It's a lot to handle. You too, Rhea, you tell me if you're on mute. So if you need me to, do you know? Okay.
I'm okay. I
okay?
Thank you for saying that, though.
Because I don't want it to be upsetting to anybody. So I will minimize my story a little bit.
Okay.
So I turn on the news, and it's Sandy Hook Elementary. And so I'm a young kids teacher. That's my thing, is working with 10-year-old and under. 3-year-olds to 6-year-olds are my jam. And so that whole beginner age group, and I'm watching, and I have probably between the 2 schools, I teach about 200 kids, so as they start talking and saying this number has died, and it was as they start announcing how many people have died in the building, and they believe they're children, that's when I
realized.
I screamed, and I fell against the wall, and I just slid down the wall crying. And it was it was an incredibly surreal day. It was where, for us, like everybody's experiencing now, there's before Sandy Hook and now there's after. Mm-hmm. And that world never went back to how it was before, like people are feeling right now. So the one thing I notice with people now is that I can tell them that this is how we felt then, but we were in a bubble. We were alone in our community in that feeling. The wonderful thing that I think people need to take advantage of right now is that the whole world is going through this. That's a silver lining. The silver lining is people know why you're upset. When you are in something in a small town, but that has a global impact, where friends in Germany that reached out to me. I mean, everybody knew about Sandy Hook when it happened, but they could dip their toe in it and send me a text and wish me well. And, our kids, we lost 3 little girls at our studio, at one studio, and then the other studio was also greatly affected. But they could go away, and we still were just left having to process it. So So just in retrospect, looking back and comparing the two, the one thing I can say is that we have each other now. We all are in this, and we were so impacted. And it was so unprecedented, Rhee. None of us could talk about it. We couldn't discuss it. We didn't talk about it. So the processing of those emotions took a lot longer.
How does Sandy, are you near Sandy Hook now? Are you still living?
I'm
Not
not,
Sandy Hook, Newtown is what I mean to say. Sandy
yes.
Hook was the school, Newtown is the town.
So Sandy Hook is like a little suburb of Newtown, which is also a really small
Oh,
town, like just a little area of Newtown. So I live just outside of Newtown.
how are the people this many years later and now dealing with this kind of news?
Mm. So you know how we talked before, how everybody right now is appreciating this idea of human connection?
Mm.
We already learned that lesson. We learned that lesson 8 years ago. And so for us, I think, and I'm speaking for myself and the people that I know in the community, in our community, not everybody reacted the same way. So that's a bold statement for me to say in our community. It's the people that I know is that there's an appreciation for life and an appreciation of the littlest things in life and a gratitude that I feel like the people that I get to spend time with walk in, that everybody else is only getting to feel right now. And I've been graced, and that's the only way when I'm looking at how I process getting through something like that, I have to find the grace side of it, right? So I got to come to that over the last 8 years.
So we have about 5-10 minutes left. Tell me, Wingman. So you go through Sandy Hook. How long till Wingman your involvement comes in with Wingman, and how?
That's a good question. So I did not do a good job processing all of it right away. So I actually had a moment within a couple of days after the shooting. And I just kind of lost it. And in my head, the phrase in my head was, I have lost all hope in humanity's ability to take care of its children. And I shut down in a lot of ways. I shut down from everything else. I only cared about the kids. I only could focus on just the kids because we were taking care of a lot of the kids that were survivors. And so keeping them safe and keeping them happy was the highest priority in my life. But I was angry at God, the universe, whatever. I was angry at everybody, and that lasted for about 3 years. And I was someone that, and you would never know, I'm a pretty positive person in general. So the fact that I would be that affected and struggled to get out of it, that's how deep it was. But then I had this wonderful opportunity through a friend, Suzanne Garrity. Do you know Suzanne Garrity?
Yes.
So Suzanne was coming to, we had known each other online. We had never met in person, and she was coming to the area. She's from New Hampshire. So she was coming to the area and she said, oh, we can meet up in person. This will be great. This will be the first time this can happen. We were excited about it. And she said, and by the way, I'm coming because my husband is a motivational speaker and he's going to be doing a speech for one of the Sandy Hook foundations. And I said, nope, because I did not go to any, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I didn't want to talk about the shooting. I wanted nothing to do with the shooting. I was kind of dissociating myself from it because that's the only way I could still teach the kids. So she's like, no, really? She goes, here's the website. Take a look at the website and you can let me know the day before. So the day before was my birthday. And I just said, I said, all right, I'll meet you. So I met her at this event, which happened to be a Wingman launch at a middle school, one of the very first middle schools. And Rhee, I sat there and I steeled myself, my hands on the chair, and I said, I'm just not going to listen. I'm just going to wait until we can talk after the event. And well, you've met Ian.
Yes.
Charismatic, speak with an accent and, there you go. And I was listening to him talk about empathy and connection and courage and inclusion to these middle school kids. And I was listening to Suzanne's husband, Ed, getting these kids excited about going above and beyond for each other, middle school kids, to a point where they got a 7th grade middle school boy on stage and in front of his friends on his cell phone, called his mom and told her he loved her in front of everyone on speaker.
Really?
And they cheered him on. And there was a moment when I was sitting there and I said, this is exactly what I try to do in my dance classes, but I have had no way of doing it. And I have never volunteered for a single nonprofit anything ever. Sorry, I just haven't. And that's just the truth. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, Mr. Hockley, my name is Jessica Michaels and I'm a dance teacher and I have never volunteered for anything, but I love what you're doing and I really think the dance industry would love it. And so we started working together then. And then within 6 months, I volunteered for the foundation for about 6 months. And then I was hired to take everything that they were doing in schools and bring it to the dance industry so that we could, and it's, from the educational standpoint, it's called social and emotional learning. And it's where we teach kids about emotional regulation, personal responsibility, all the things that, basically all the things we never learned when we were kids, right? Now we know to teach.
Parents, and maybe they don't have the grandparents like we had,
Yeah.
that are passing on that knowledge. Somebody has to take on the responsibility.
Yes, and I don't know that they're getting it anywhere else. And I feel like we're really lucky as dance teachers. Generally speaking, you could have a child from 3 years old to 18 years old for 15 years. Who else does that child get to spend that much time with?
I'm with you 100%. So I wanted to know about Jessica Michaels tonight, but I want to give you this last couple minutes to tell everybody how they can learn more about Wingman, because you know this, but I'll just look in this camera and tell everybody this is like one of the most important programs that you can do with your kids. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And if there was ever a time to introduce it as we're rethinking our curriculum, this is it. So tell them how, where, etc.
So we have the wingmanfordance.org website, and that's where the Wingman, typically you would go there. However, we are doing a ton of just free virtual Wingman events for educators, and that's at Dylan's Wings of Change. And it's this whole new series. Like we just literally, like everybody else, like every other dance teacher and educators had to do, they had to take everything that they do and put it into the virtual world. So that virtual interactive series is called the Social Awakening Experience, and it's on dylanswingsofchange.org.
Okay, I wrote it down.
Did you write down?
Dylan's Wings of Change.org. Wow, I can't say that. Spell Dylan for us.
DYLAN. dylanswingsofchange.org. And then on there, you're going to find under the programs, the Social Awakening Experience. And that's what you just sign up for one of our free interactive episodes. It's not a webinar. It's not a meeting. It's not a Facebook Live. It is interactive. It is where we connect with everybody that joins us. And then whoever joins us gets invited to a training, so a free training, so that they can just have everything they need to then bring all of these ways to connect with their kids back to their studios.
Awesome. Thanks. I am one of your biggest fans. You know that, right?
I do. Thank you, Rhee. Rhee, you were the first person that gave us an article. I got interviewed for Dance Studio Life magazine way back when we first, before even everything had started. We had just done the launch, and I got a call from one of your writers.
I'm always looking for people who are making a difference and who are proving that it's about more than the steps that we teach. And you're doing that. And I'm with you 100% through this journey, even this tough one.
Yeah, because you know what? I will tell you from my background, just like as we're closing up, dance saved my life in a million and one ways, over and over again. It is the one constant. It is the area where I feel safest. It is the area where I can express myself, and it is the area where I connect with children and other dance teachers and, with an audience. Um, it has been a game changer for my entire life, And so that's what we're offering to these kids right now. That's it. So what we're offering is we are offering them the game changer of their life during this crisis.
And I want to say to you, after you've told us some of your story, you know that you wouldn't be as passionate about this project, this wingman, this Dylan's Wing for Change, if you didn't learn through that journey the life lessons that would put you into a place like this where you can feel so passionate about what you do.
100%. It was dance has been I am a dancer like I am a brown-eyed girl. It's just who I am. And that will never change. And I will be the old lady standing at the ballet bar with 2 different leg warmers on and some sparkle eyeshadow. That'll be me. And I'm okay with it.
I'll let you know if we get to the sparkled eyeshadow. I might ask you to, I don't know. But leg warmers, I'm okay. I never could find 2 of the same color myself. It was a blast. Thank you so much for sharing both your personal and passionate journey.
Thank you for asking, Rhee. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share, and thank you for always being our biggest fan over at Wingman and Dylan's Wings of Change.
I will always be that way. I want to tell you that Ian is one of my heroes. Why do I say that about him? Not because of what he's been through, but the soul that you feel in his company. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
He calms your soul when you're in the same room. He doesn't even have to speak.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I feel really honored to work with him. It's funny because I'll write something. I'll say, "Well, I work for Ian," and he'll tap me and I'll go, "Work with."
I love it.
That's just the person that he is.
Great way to end. Thank you all for tuning in. We're here 6 nights a week. I would love to tell you who we have on tomorrow night, but I'm not all that organized. So we'll see at 8:00 and it'll be a surprise for both of us.
Thank you so much, Rhee.
Thank you, guys.